Hello, my name's Scott Davis. Welcome to New World Birth. This is the weekly neutrino forecast for January 4th to January 10th of 2015. And on January 4th, we have the sun. You can see it denoted here as the black circle with a dot in it. It's in Capricorn in the 38th hexagram. And all the way on the outside of the wheel, you can see the chop mark representing the 38th hexagram, numbered from bottom to top. The 38 goes yang, yang, yin, yang, yin, yang. And then the 38th hexagram is mapped to an opening in an energy channel called a gate. And right here we have the 38th gate of the fighter, opposition, the ability to preserve individual integrity through opposition to detrimental forces, located in the root center in an individual energy path in the knowing circuit called the channel of struggle, a design of stubbornness that connects to the 28th gate of the game player, preponderance of the great, the transitoriness of power and influence. And I found human design to be amazingly accurate in describing the person, that I use it as my primary tool when I provide readings. And we have the following activated gates on January 4th. We've got the sun in the 38th gate. The earth is in the 39th gate. The north node is in the 48th gate. The south node is in the 21st gate. Both Mercury and Venus are in the 60th gate, with Mars in the 49, and Jupiter is in the 4th gate. Saturn is in the 34th gate. Neptune is in the 55, and Pluto is also in the 38. And all the planets appear to be moving direct or in forward motion from our perspective here on Earth, with the exception of Jupiter. Obviously not every gate activation forms a channel, but this information can be very helpful if you know your own human design chart, because some of these transits will form channels with potentials in your personal body graph. Excuse me. And you can get your human design chart by going to jovianarchive.com, click on the button that says get your free rave chart, and then just enter in your birth information. The neutrino forecast is basically just a weather report, and no matter what the weather, an individual strategy and authority is the correct choice to have an authentic experience regardless of the program. As Ra Uru said, whatever the weather's going to be, you have your neutrino umbrella. As long as you're experimenting with your strategy and authority, the weather is for your pleasure. And as we begin the week, we've got one channel definition due to the transit field with the Earth in the 39 and Neptune in the 55. It brings us the channel of emoting until January 5th, which will be a time period when people feel the pressure in the form of an emotional wave. The best way to deal with this level of sensitivity is to appreciate the lows as well as the highs, recognizing that it's all part of our human experience and is temporary for those who don't have this channel in our birth charts. This can bring lessons that yield wisdom as long as we stay present in moving from hope to despair, back to hope, in a cycle. And we could tap into great creativity because this is an individual channel, which brings us melancholy or feeling blue, which can be used as fuel for some form of artistic expression. And this brings deeply romantic and acoustic sensitivity, so listening to music or talking to a loved one is favored. And then for folks without the defined route, this transit definition can bring a pressure. We're going to be looking at the sun's Ravi Ching line values daily, because 70% of the neutrinos we receive come from the sun. And as Ross said in Living with the Program, the lines of the day, when talking about these daily shifts of line values, he said, we can always take advantage of the themes of the day. If your strategy and authority doesn't lead you in that direction, you can just notice how the program's affecting others in your environment. So let's get started. On January 4th, it begins with the sun in the 5th line of the 38. The sun is detrimented in the 38.5 due to Pluto also being in the 38, which is described as alienation, a stage in opposition when one is totally isolated. detrimented alienation experienced as painful confinement that by its very nature blinds one to the possibility that there are those at some point who may come to one's aid. The energy for stubbornness so strong that it is difficult to recognize that there are others that can help in times of struggle. And fifth line days are heretical. It's a day of suspicion, also of universalization. Something can leak out and spread like a virus, whether it's a YouTube video or a Facebook post that gets a lot of attention. But there's a great deal of suspicion and paranoia on the fifth line day. Basically, the energy of the fifth line is projection, which is they could do it, they'd be great at it. And then if the person doesn't do it, can't do it, for whatever reason, it doesn't get done, and the projection is the expectation is not fulfilled, then that's when the punishment comes. So as I said in the past, it's really only paranoia if they're not out to get you. And given the projection field, often they are. Seduction is also another fifth line theme. Later on the fourth, the sun moves up into the sixth line, the role model line of the 38th hexagram. And the shift happens at 4:12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All the times I'm going to give you are Eastern Standard, so you want to convert those to your local time zone. The sun in the 38.6 is misunderstandings, opposition without basis. Exalted, eventual crystallization that clears up misunderstandings. Energy which attracts misunderstandings and the stubbornness to face opposition. Detrimented, the recognition that misunderstandings are the root of opposition, but the insistence that it is the misunderstanding of the opposing forces, where misunderstanding is the root of the struggle and the energy of stubbornness to insist and maintain one's position. And six line days, we're on the roof of the hexagram, so think about being on the roof of your house. People are looking at the other things that are around the house, what's going on in the neighborhood rather than the house itself. So what we see here is Ra talked about not getting stuck with your head in the clouds, because you'll end up having something bang into your shins or your kneecaps. So it's a day where there's a lack of focus on what's going on around us, because folks are looking beyond their immediate environment. They're looking at what's coming next. So like third line days, there can be certain dangers of not seeing a car coming, not seeing a bill coming, things of that nature. And then on the fifth, the sun moves out of the 38 and into the 54. And with that, we also have the Earth moving out of the 39 and into the 53. I'm actually going to leave the centers up because earlier in the day, Venus and Mars move into gates that define the root and the solar plexus. Let's start out. The 53rd hexagram and gate is of beginnings, development as a structured progression that is both steadfast and enduring. And this shift happens at 2:17 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And with the sun in the 54th gate, of ambition, the Marian Maiden, interaction in its mundane social context, but also one's mystical and cosmic relationships. And the sun is in the first line of the 54. This is influence, exalted, the ability to achieve through secret relationships, anywhere from the private advisor to the Satanist. Ambition energized through secret relationships, which fuels influence. Detrimented, socially misguided insistence on formal recognition of a relationship that in terms of influence will diminish power. Ambition that demands formal recognition, limiting influence. And so we're down in the lower trigram, first, second, third line, where it's more of people are more looking inward and absorbed in their own process. The theme of the first line is a fear or anxiety that needs to be investigated. So it's an energy for studying, not to act, look into things, not to jump. Might be a good day to deal with things you don't understand, can't make sense of, and don't know. And we're progressing towards the rave New Year. I know some people celebrate New Year's Eve and January 1st being New Year's Day. But in human design, we look at that when the sun enters into the 41st gate in hexagram, which is the start codon in DNA. That's when the rave New Year begins. And so at this point, with the sun in the Marian Maiden, it also has the Earth in the 53rd hexagram of beginnings. This begins the real process. We've hit the stage where we are really here to look clearly, and we've come out of the 38 where we were asking, have we found purpose in our lives or in the previous cycle? The 54 is ambition and transformation, and the 53rd is about beginnings. To look forward, and the questions that come up at this point are: who are my allies? Who can I work with? Who can I trust? Who can I rely on? And also on the 5th, as I said before, Venus moves out of the 60th gate. Mercury stays there, but Venus moves into the 41st gate in hexagram, with Mars moving from the 49 to the 30. And this shift actually happens earlier in the day, before the change of the Sun and Earth from the 38 and 39 into the 54 and 53. Obviously we'll be talking about the channel itself, but let's start out with talking about Venus. Venus is very powerful and deeply misunderstood according to Ra. It brings morality, natural law in which we deal with the other and the consequences of the world around us. And what disturbs you at a moral level. Your design and personality Venuses tell you about a moral dilemma that you're going to work with in life. And that if you don't operate with moral clarity, that Venus can be unkind in its retribution. Venus in the 41st gate of contraction, decrease the limitation of resources, which maximizes development of potential. Venus is in the first line of the 41, which is reasonableness, the appropriate delegation of responsibility. Exalted imagination to make the best out of very little. Coolness, where the energy to release feelings is selective. Detrimented, a tendency and understanding to assume capability, leading to strain. The hothead, to release the urge to release feelings. And then also on the 5th, Mars moves from the 49 to the 30. So that Mars is in the gate of recognition of feelings, the clinging fire, freedom recognized as illusion, and limitation as fate. And Mars is in the first line of the 30, which is composure, balance in the face of disorder. Exalted, the maximization of limitation in all cases. Stability through feelings, no matter what the situation. Detrimented, the ability to maintain composure, but at the expense of progress. Balanced through feelings, but unable to let go of them. And Ross spoke about Mars being an extraordinary and immature energy source that lacks refinement and is subject to outbursts. And Mars represents the warrior archetype. And by following our strategy and authority, we slowly refine the energy of our design and personality Mars from immaturity to wisdom. And with Mars in the 30 and Venus in the 41, we've got the channel of recognition until the 10th, which gives us a couple of days to dream for the sake of the dream, without the expectation of the dream coming true or bringing lasting peace. This is part of the abstract collective circuitry. So sharing experiences about our hopes and dreams with others will have a profound ability to stir their feelings. I'd expect there to be more restlessness uh, in the experience of connecting the root to the solar plexus, which we also have with the channel of emoting. Um, so, for those of us for those who do not have emotional definition, this channel and the channel of emoting that we've had for a little while before this. Can bring in the unfamiliar wave of emotions, yearning to feel in order to learn. So, folks, without the defined root, this transit can also bring pressure. And then on the 6th, the sun moves up into the second line of the 54, the shift happening at 12:22 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The sun in the 54-2 is described as discretion, exalted, the wisdom once a relationship is formally recognized to restrain the temptation to take advantage of past informal interactions. The energy of restraint fuels ambition. Detrimented recognition in the formal sense, seen as license to take advantage of informal knowledge, a lack of loyalty, ambition, energy, which can fuel disloyalty. And second line days, people are waiting for something. They're waiting to be called, particularly waiting to be called for their natural talents. So people can get stuck in their own trip. So it's not a great day to have a party or a big social event, because the hermit energy really has people more wanting to stay home. And then also on the 6th, Mercury moves out of the 60 and joins Venus in the 41. And Mercury is, of course, if you know your mythology, the messenger of the gods. This is about communication. And Ra spoke about it being expansion of human consciousness through communication, not just as words, but also as music. So what do we need to communicate in life? Well, we communicate the message of our design Mercury through the medium of our personality Mercury. So what might be communicated when we've got Mercury in the 41? The pressure to experience a new emotional beginnings. This is the gate of contraction, decrease, the limitation of resources, which maximizes the development of potential. Mercury is detrimented in the first line of the 41 as reasonableness, the appropriate delegation of responsibility, detrimented a tendency in understanding to assume capability, leading to strain, the hothead, the urge to release feelings. And on the 7th, we've got the sun moving into the third line, the martyr line of the 54, which the shift happening at 10:27 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The sun in the 54-3 is covert action, exalted, the ability when stymied in formal relationships to use secret and purely informal channels when it's the only resort, the drive when blocked to use secret means to fuel ambition, detrimented, the insistence that formal channels, no matter how frustrating, can be overcome by the power of attraction. The energy of ambition, when blocked, will fuel the power of attraction to overcome the obstacle. And third line days, in the line of the martyr, we've got bonds made and broken, trial and error process, system of discovery by figuring out what doesn't work. It's a day to be careful on the roads, be careful of things in your environment, whether it's a door or somebody's elbow, because things bump into us on third line days. And we have bonds made or bonds broken. It's a good material day, could be a good day to do business and work on the material plane. But you need to be careful because things can go wrong. But those things have the energy that leads to discovery. And then on the 8th, the sun moves into the opportunist fourth line of the 54. and the shift is at 8:32 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The sun in the 54:4 is described as enlightenment or endarkenment. Here is one of the most mystical of positions. There is neither an exaltation nor a detriment, for in truth they are the same. Exalted and detrimented, the Alpha and Omega, the end and the beginning. There is no description possible. The fuel for transformation at its purest level. No polarity, no planetary accent. And fourth line days up in the opportunist line, we're changing from the lower trigram, which is personal process, to the upper trigram, which is transpersonal. So it's a change from an inward perspective to looking outward with the themes of friendship, companionship, networking. Fourth line days are great for social interaction. People are more open to networking and to being friendly and social. And on the ninth, the sun moves into the fifth line, so into the heretic line of the 54, with the shift being at 6:37 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the sun is exalted in the 54:5, and it's described as magnanimity. Magnanimity. That's a hard one for me to pronounce. Exalted, the natural authority that actualizing spirit that in a position of power can have genuine and fruitful relationships with the less advantaged, as long as they are in service and do not make demands. The energy for actualizing that, despite this power, fuels fruitful relationships with others. No polarity. And again, fifth line days, we talked about this in past reports. It's a day of suspicion, but also of universalization, where something can spread like a virus, whether it's a YouTube video or a Facebook post. But there's also a great deal of suspicion and paranoia on the fifth line day, which can impact the nature of relationships. But this really comes from the fifth line being about projection. Projection is they could do it. They'd be great at it. And then if the person doesn't do it, can't do it for whatever reason, it doesn't get done, the expectation isn't met, that's when the punishment comes. So as I said in the past, it really is only paranoia if they're not out to get you. And given the projection field, often they are. Fifth line energy also includes seduction. Also on the ninth, we've got Venus moving from the 41, leaving Mercury there, and into the 19. And we talked about Venus earlier in the report about it being about morality, values, things of that nature. Venus in the 19th gate of wanting approach. That there are things that all things are interrelated and is apparent and manifested through the action of approach. And Venus is in the first line of the 19, which is interdependence, exalted, the successful approach that does not lose its individual character in acceptance, the pressure of wanting without losing one's identity when accepted by others. Detrimented, the tendency once an approach is accepted to get stuck in continued reflection at the expense of continued development. The pressure of acceptance, which fears eventual rejection. And then on the 10th, the sun moves into the role model, the sixth line of the 54, and the shift happening at 4:42 a.m. again Eastern Standard Time, and the sun in the 54:6 is selectivity, exalted, the ingrained responsibility in terms of maintaining security and personal identity that will naturally restrict its relationships to ones that are mutually beneficial. The energy to restrict relationships that hinder ambition. Detriment, generally benefit and expansive nature, which assumes that it can instill what is otherwise missing in its partners, a waste of time, the waste of energy in maintaining relationships, which hinders ambition. And like we said before, 6 line days, roof of the hexagram, people are looking beyond the immediate environment. So again, just be a little more careful of what is going on in your immediate environment. And then also on the 10th, Mercury moves from the 41, joining Venus in the 19. Mars continues in the 30, but the definition goes away. And we talked about Mercury before. It's about communication. So what might be communicated when Mercury is in the 19? The pressure to make sure community exists and that it has its needed resources to support the tribe. And this is the gate of wanting approach, that all things are interrelated. Is apparent and manifested through the action of approach. And Mercury in the first line of the 19 is interdependence, exalted, the successful approach that does not lose its individual character in acceptance. The pressure of wanting without losing one's identity when accepted by others. The detriment is the tendency, once the approach is accepted, to get stuck in the continued reflection at the expense of continued development, the pressure for acceptance, which fears eventual rejection. So the sun continues to move through the 10th hexagram, the 58, the 38, and now we're into the 54, which are hexagrams that are gates associated with the Vishnu God's head, which was covered in the December 21st offering from last year. So next week we're going to finish up where we began with the Keepers of the Wheel. This is actually the 50th report, so I'm getting close to completing my goal of putting these reports out for a year and as a way of really learning the wheel of human design. So I've been enjoying this experience. So no matter what the energies that are conditioning you during the week, remember this experience is about being a passenger that's riding in a vehicle driven by the magnetic monopole. And so, enjoy the scenery. Let the vehicle take you where you need to go through using your strategy and authority. Every day is a blessing, no matter what the dramas are that beckon to distract you. We're all giving the performance of a lifetime on the world stage. Just take some time out to observe the play, observe your movie, as well as acting your part. Remember, you're a spiritual being that's having a human experience. And I want to thank you for checking out New World Birth. And the next segment of the weekly neutrino forecast will be on for January 11th of 2014. It should be available on the 10th when we continue to look at the influence of the heavenly bodies as they transit the sky and the hexagrams of the I Ching. You can check us out on Facebook, Blogger, or YouTube. And I encourage you to share this information as videos or as text as widely as you choose. And I invite you to contact me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com if you have any questions or wish to schedule a reading. If you've been thinking about getting a reading, please contact me. I'd love to provide you a reading during these uncertain times. You'll need to either be able to call me in Maine in the USA, or we can connect with Skype to receive your reading. We're also accepting donations to keep these reports freely available. And as I've said in the past, one of the great ways to make a donation is get a reading. You get something really worthwhile, and you also support New World Birth. As always, I feel blessed that you've taken the time to connect with my passion for these ancient mysteries and their application to our journey during this incarnation. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste, in Lakesh, and as Ra would say, love yourself. So thanks everybody. I'm really grateful that you've taken the time to watch this video, and look forward to connecting with you in future videos, or in a reading would be great, or in any other way. Again, you can always message me, send me an email at New World Birth if you want to connect with me in another way. All right, thank you very, very much. I always feel blessed that you've given your attention to these offerings. Peace, everybody.